Scene 7, take 1.
I think it's kind of a beautiful story, even though it's creepy and weird at times. And I think that it's kind of a bold move to treat the story the way it's treated in the book, which is as a sweet, kind of heartfelt story, despite its the fact that it kind of pushes the envelope.
Flowers in the Attic is a story that's primarily about family, and it's about sort of family dysfunction that gets passed on through generations. And it's essentially at the core of it sort of about a dark family secret and the revelations and the outcome that come out of it.
Flowers in the Attic is a story of abuse, really, and neglect, and it's a story of survival and kind of this really one messed up family.
It's super dark. I mean, it's very kind of dark to imagine how a person would ever do this.
There's a terrible accident in the family, and the 4 children and mother lose the husband. So they go to stay with the mother's estranged family. When they arrive at the estate, they're surprised that they are put away up in an attic as opposed to embraced by their grandmother.
Well, look what the cat dragged in.
The grandmother despises the 4 children, considers them the devil's spawn, never even meant to be born. The reason she despises them so much is because our mother, Corinne, had married her dad's brother, half-brother, but they're still blood.
The mother convinces them that she will win the affection of her father back and bring them into the family, but they end up staying in the attic for about 2 years.
The reason we're locked in the attic is because the grandfather can never know of our existence. If he finds out of our existence, Corinne doesn't get the money. She's not written onto the will.
When are you going to tell your father about us? When do we get to leave?
I can't tell him about you ever. My father forgave me on one condition, that I didn't have any children with your father.
Over time, they're staying in the attic. The mother starts to fade out of the picture, and the 4 kids start to form a family unit of their own. Christopher and Kathy take over the roles of the parents.
Carrie and Corey are very little twins, and in their time in the attic, Kathy sort of becomes a second mother to them.
I miss Mama so much. Pretend I'm your mom. I love you so much. That's what makes a real mother.
Because my character becomes more and more neglectful, that they have to take on the roles of parents to the younger kids. So ultimately, they're better parents to the young kids than I am.
The film goes over a long period of time, and I think it's really great because you get to see a lot of the characters, especially Kathy, grow a lot. And over in her time in the attic, she becomes very independent and she becomes very motherly, and I think she really grows up.
When they're locked in the attic, Kathy is 12 and Christopher is 14. And so they're locked in the attic for 2 years. So Kathy goes through puberty, 13, 14. Christopher is 15, 16. That is a pretty crazy age to be locked in an attic with your other adolescent sibling, you know, and nobody else. You can't see a single other person.
Christopher and Kathy, their bond starts to develop, starts to grow, and they start to develop feelings for each other. Feelings that they know are wrong, but the love is so strong, neither of them can deny it.
With the kids, I mean, obviously, you know, some of the, you know, when they kind of go into the territory and the love story and all that, it is, you know, particularly given their age, you know, it was a consideration. When we first started auditioning, I mean, the most important thing I started to say to them was essentially just forget the brother-sister element, and, you know, and just that this is essentially love, and regardless of what your relationship is to each other, it's still the same feeling, so that it's coming from a place that is based on sort of natural feelings with that.
The thing is, I want to feel this way about you. I love you. I don't know if I can ever love anyone else.
V.C. Andrews wrote the book. It sold over 40 million copies. It was it was our generation's Twilight. It was a hugely popular read. And what was happening with it was mothers were reading it, and then teen daughters were sort of swiping it off their bedside tables. So for a lot of young people, it was their first experience reading something that felt controversial.
You know, the book, when I was young, I remember the book coming out, and I think a lot of people from my generation remember the cover very well.
I always saw the copy of the book with that little girl's face looking out of the window, sort of like pale and forlorn. So I totally remember the book cover.
What's interesting is I read the book as a kid. You know, we all read it at camp. I remember there was one dog-eared copy that got passed around, and we all really loved the book. And I remember as a kid reading it and never questioning, you know, what are those kids doing in the attic? And reading it again as an adult, I was able to really appreciate the levels that the story plays on. One of the things that really works in the book is that it's told from this little girl's point of view. And you're seeing it through her eyes, so you don't ask adult questions necessarily. You see it from her perspective.
Ultimately, it is an adventure story, and it's a love story.
I knew, and I'd read the book, and then I came to it, you know, sort of when I got the script for this project, and it's, you know, it had such a strong impact when I was growing up, and everybody sort of knew the book because it was controversial and it was this big story, that it just felt like the right time, that it's been enough time that's been elapsed to tell the story again. And it was just such a strong story that even, you know, X number of years later, I still remembered it.
Lifetime started out by really appreciating the book, sort of understanding what the fans who all kind of flocked to the story really liked about it. You know, how compelling it was to us, you know, as when we were younger, when we first read the book, and I think they understood why it's you know, sort of kept its audience. So they went into it, you know, knowing that there were certain things that they wanted to do right. You know, they wanted to get the cast right. They wanted to make sure that what was in the book is in the movie, you know, that it hasn't been, you know, kind of stripped down. And I think they went into it with that attitude, and I think that's why we were able to do it.
With the cast, essentially the people that we ended up with were the people that we wanted.
The top name on our list was Kiernan Shipka to play Kathy. In fact, it was funny, none of us really knew her name. We were just like, that amazing girl from Mad Men. And then we did this casting session that took weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and we looked at so many Kathys, but we ultimately landed with our very first idea, and we feel so lucky that we got Kiernan because she's done an amazing job and is a total pro, and we feel like we were blessed.
That's why we were really lucky with the cast, because Kiernan has done so much on Mad Men. Even though she's only 13, she's so sort of advanced. I didn't have to worry as much essentially with the subject matter because she was so mature for her age and had so much experience. Ellen Burstyn, obviously, is, you know, I'm not sure in my career as a director I will have an opportunity to work with such a legend again. You know, it was a tremendous honor just even to have her on set and to work with.
When you're talking about Ellen Burstyn, Academy Award winning Ellen Burstyn, the bar goes way up. So we were thrilled, and she's so incredible in this movie. She's amazing.
Ellen Burstyn was always our dream, you know, choice for the grandmother, and she really goes there. You know, I'm glad, you know, we met her just before shooting, you know, when she signed onto the film, and I'm glad that I met her before because she's so lovely and nice and, you know, such a lovely person. And then when you see her with that grandma wig on, you're just scared of her and you want to keep out of her way because she was really in her character, and she's great. She's scary, creepy. She's everything you want her to be.
Well, just as an actress, I mean, I'm super excited to work with Ellen because my whole life I've watched her in movies and she's amazing. So I was really excited to meet her. I was like, so excited. And she's really cool. And she's pretty much totally the opposite of her character. But she can be, like, on set, she was very scary, I have to say. And I think she really got into character those days, especially when she was super scary and abusive.
I make the rules in this house. I do. And I execute the punishment.
Heather also is a great contrast to Ellen. The characters they play reflect who they are actually as actors as well. It's a good contrast, those two.
One of the things that makes Heather so strong at the role is she's so charming and she's so beautiful that you can see through the children's eyes why they would believe her. She has the ability with those humongous eyes to pull you in, and you believe what she says. And you know, she is totally as described as Corinne, just impossibly beautiful.
I think that Kathy and Corinne have just like a really fun relationship to play because at first it's very subtle. Kathy likes her mother in the beginning, but since Kathy's sort of a pessimistic person, she's kind of the first to realize what Corinne is doing.
And then Heather has been absolutely wonderful, and I think, honestly, I can't think of a better embodiment for Corinne. And Kiernan, especially given her age, to anchor, she's anchored the film so well, and it's really, primarily her story. With both of them, they've really been, they went there, and they were really sort of testing the limits with the characters, because they're not perfect characters by any stretch. Across the board, it's just been an incredibly strong cast.
For me, what Flowers in the Attic really is, it's kind of a cult classic that we have the opportunity to make the right way, and hopefully we're doing that.
When we got involved with this movie at Lifetime, they were really clear that they were excited to work with a feature film director. So that was, obviously we were excited about that. And, when we were looking at directors, and we were so excited to find Deborah, obviously, who's done amazing work on this film.
It's interesting because, I come from features, primarily what I'd done before was features. So, to come into, sort of a television movie was a different experience for me. But it really hasn't been, the experience hasn't been very different from making an independent film, It's the same sort of a real emphasis on quality and making something that's really about the story and the characters and the performances. So, it's kind of exciting because, it's getting harder and harder to finance independent movies, particularly things that are, low budget. That what this felt like for me as a director is that, the Lifetime making movies like this is sort of opening up an avenue that's starting to close on independent film. And so it was the ability to make something that was, a really strong, dramatic, interesting, like serious, material with real performances and actors in it, and have the ability to do that and actually have distribution and a support system for that.
That's a difference. TV movies, used to only be made by again, wonderful television directors. But part of the goal with this movie was to make a film that felt more like a feature film.
We'd always talked about this being sort of timeless. I mean, the book is set in the 50s, and as is the movie, set in 1958. But we wanted it to feel, not poodle skirts, not, hardcore period, but rather timeless, because really once the kids are in the attic, it is timeless. They're in an old house. They're there for a long time. It's hard to track time passing sometimes because they're in this end. We wanted it to feel timeless, and hopefully we've achieved that. With the costumes, with the makeup, but also, great sets. James McTeer, our production designer, did a fantastic job. And the attic really kind of comes alive as a character as a result. Flowers in the Attic is going to be an edgy, unusual, special couple hours of television.
And only Lifetime can do it.